now we worked with them and they like created an email sequence to like, personalize based on like, are you a first timer or not? And use that information to change which email you get in a welcome series or reference, like one question they ask is very clever is like, what's your favorite cartoon? And actually based on your cartoon, it can get a sense of the age range because you were a fan of Sailor Moon versus say the Fairly Odd Parents, you're going to be in different age brackets most likely.
Interesting.
And they use that information to personalize like, so even as like a personal reference of like your favorite cartoon. And that too, like has a big impact on consumers. And we actually found that like that personalized email sequence increased their like revenue from their welcome series by 30 to 40% plus. Like,
interesting.
And it didn't take a lot of work. You just have to go and collect the data. We have a customer like Curlsmith. They use like conversational pop-ups to like help guide their customers what they're looking for. And that drives like, I think like half of their revenue. Then there's a bunch of customers where like half of the revenue comes from us, and it's like crazy. Like we've seen an exponential increase in the amount of revenue that comes from like Octini experiences. Glamnetics, another good example where they have like I think 4 or 5 different kinds of quizzes, like for gift finders, different types of lashes, different types of things. We see just like super interesting things happening with a lot of brands where they get more and more creative with like different types of quizzes that they want to go and ask and like send out to their like customers in their campaigns. But like I think especially the best ones are like starting to integrate it into their email campaigns and their SMS campaigns, and that's where you really unlock the super huge value. And just frankly, the vast majority of brands are not yet doing it, and the ones that are doing it are just going to make a lot more money and are already making a lot more money, and also just a better experience too for their customers. I think it's rare to have something where it's both better for the brand and monetarily, but also better for the consumer from a like shopping experience. But this happens to be both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how I kind of feel like the whole term or the buzzword about personalization has been around a long time, but I still don't feel like I feel like that you were never really able to get as much information as you wanted in the past. And then also, but I think it's gotten a lot better. But I also feel like a lot of people have never really, a lot of brand, and there's not, I mean, I'm compassionate with the brand, the e-commerce managers at these stores, because they've got a million things going on. They've got all sorts of other stuff. But I'm just thinking that from my perception, I don't think people have really taken advantage of personalization the way they probably should have. And I'm hoping that in some ways, all these trends that we've been talking about, these challenges, are going to kind of force people to do it, and force people to kind of gather more of this information and kind of tools like you're talking about. By the way, my favorites would be Adventure Time and Attack on Titans. It's just FYI. I don't know what that says about me.
I mean, it's interesting because I think I had a different like favorite cartoon different times. Like definitely my first one was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in those like early days, and I identified for whatever reason with Raphael. Although I feel like I am more of a combo of Donatello and Mikey, or maybe Donatello. You know what? I don't know. I'm gonna have to there'll have to be a quiz somewhere where I can go now.
Yeah. Well, I have kids, and so I was forced to watch a lot of these programs. So, but I like them too. I'm still a kid at heart. So, all right. Well, walk us through now. Like, feel free to give us other examples because I think people love to hear examples. But walk us through like the different products that you have and how people are using them. One of the trends I've seen in software, because I've been in software for a while now, enterprise software, and this was even 4 or 5 years ago. There was still a lot of commerce companies who were bringing their products to market to brands, medium size, small, whatever, and they were very complicated. Like they took like a lot of long onboarding cycles and costly to implement, and little by little in the last 4 years, that trend has really, I think, given way to self-service, download, click, a few buttons, boom, you got it, something up and working, and so forth. At the very least, and then of course you can try advanced features after that. you guys are you guys part of that trend where I can just go to my Shopify, if I had a store, if I go to a Shopify store, I can go to download your app, bring that up. What type of onboarding? I'd love, I mean, you don't have to answer that just yet, but I'd love to get that feel for it as well. So what are the products? How are people using them? What categories are better? What type of brands are using them? And then we'll get into some of the onboarding and the implementation stuff.
Ooh, there's a whole list of questions there.
Yeah. Well, let's take one at a time. So what are the
So
different products there and how are people using them?
the first two products most everyone uses of ours is the shop quiz, which is the flagship product, which is like go build a dynamic quiz, whether it asks one question or 20 questions. At 8, 9 is a good number, and like make a beautiful experience. Like if you go and to like bariatric fusion, for example, you can go and see like it made like 4 quizzes where they're like asking all these like questions about like you're looking for all that, like, and like, helping you figure out the right supplement. Do you want like one that's a chewable, or do you want one that's a pill? Simple questions that actually like determine like what things you actually want to go and like have and buy. Or like a Glamnetic before, like Open Farm Pet, they like, ask cat or dog. It's super beautiful. You can like make gifts, things like that. Or Shopify itself. I haven't even mentioned like probably the best known one is if you go to Shopify's hardware store, hardware.shopify.com, like they have a quiz there. Like it's in their help docs even, where to guide you to figure out like which right point of sale product you need. And so lots of stores who are growing get exposed to Octani through that. And then our newer other product is conversational pop-ups. It's like a quiz within a pop-up. So traditional pop-ups, probably people like seeing, they're annoying. They're like, hi, I would like to give you here. Like imagine you walk into the store and somebody is like, hey, give me your email address and I'll give you 10% off. Like you would like look very weird at the person, at the like associate in the store if they did that. Like versus like, what does actually happen to the store? You go in, they're like, hey, what are you looking for? How can I help you? Right? Like that's how it should work on the site too. Like that's because that's how humans normally work. And it's never been that way. So we built a product that is that way. So instead of like asking for an email address in return for a discount at the beginning, I'll ask a question like, what are you looking for? Or like, how can I help you? In the pop-up, and then it'll ask for like an email address or phone number so I can send you like the results or numbers or like the recommendations, and then it'll actually recommend results right within the pop-up itself. And we actually see that instead of like the average like 5 to 7% maybe of people interact with a pop-up, 3%, 25 to 35% of people interact with a conversational pop-up. Like it's higher for some brands. And then about half of the people who do that then actually give an email address. It's like 4x multiple than like what a traditional pop-up does. And then 1/6 of people who see the results page actually buy a product right there from that results page, which again 4x increase in like purchases from a pop-up. And that takes 10 minutes tops to set up. You put in like a question, you ask an email address, and that's like it. And those are like our two like front-facing products that a lot of consumers are like exposed to. And then I think the other like piece of the product is really like the database portion, the buyer profile portion of our product is like, now we help you store that data and then we help you connect that data to other channels to go and market. So like one that we built is Facebook Messenger, how we originally started. So you can combine your Facebook Messenger marketing and personalize all the messages it sends out. Billions of people use Facebook Messenger. It works really well and is like cheaper than SMS in a bunch of ways. As well as like, connecting it, to your email or SMS provider, right? Whether, a lot of customers connected to their Klaviyo or use our, we have some upcoming, actually we have a whole bunch of upcoming integrations. Like I'll take like Zapier, for example, to like make it so that you can send this data into like whichever email platform or loyalty platform or SMS platform. Imagine like being able to personalize the SMS text messages you get from you send to your customers based on like, do they have a cat or dog? Do they have dry skin or oily skin? Whatever key questions you would normally ask in the store. And so that's kind of like, it's like a customer journey, like a full customer journey style product that also just like integrates into everything else that you're likely using in your tech stack. And then I will say in terms of like where it works best, like there's no kind of product where asking questions of your customer doesn't work. Even if you had one product, like your teeth whitener products, like the example I like to give. You're going to ask questions like, do you smoke or do you drink coffee? Or like, how often do you brush your teeth or whatever, things like that. And that information can actually help personalize the sales pitch, because if you're a coffee drinker, you can explain like the benefits and how your teeth whitener works against coffee stains versus like smoking stains. And so like it works at one product or 1,000 products, but we definitely have there's definitely verticals where quizzes and like these guided shopping experiences are the default. Beauty, fashion, food, baby, supplement and health, like the list goes on and on, but that's like just ones that just come top of mind. But even, you have a couple of products and people are trying to make a choice, it works really well. Or you're trying to sell like somebody on like a single choice, it works really well too.
So from audience or from a user standpoint, it sounds like this is applicable to just so many different websites, regardless of what the categories are. Is there a certain size of customer, of brand that that your products are good for? Like, for instance, I know that sometimes some tools are better for folks who have larger average order values, or maybe are a certain size in terms of, how much revenue they do. Do you have any criteria like that for Octane AI?
Everyone can use it, and like there are different experiences different depending on your size. Like, we have a self-serve product where like you can set up your own conversational pop-up, and I think pretty much every brand from super tiny to super huge can and does often use a pop-up of some kind. It's just a better pop-up. If you're a larger brand, you might like have some more specific stuff you want to do in terms of the design, or like getting help and like feedback, and like setting up like super detailed flows in your email. That's something that like we like help with too, and we have advanced like functionality to help with that sort of thing. But like a smaller brand might be just like what are the 5 questions I have to ask, let's just get this thing up on the website. You can do that very quickly too. So it works across the spectrum. Different experience, like different kinds of brands and different sizes especially need different have different needs, and we built a product that works really well, whether you are looking for like super self-serve, or you're looking for your bigger brand, you're looking for a little bit of help and expertise in particular.
And then I mentioned before, in terms of onboarding, implementation, things like that, what does that look like? I mean, I know that there's different products, so maybe there's some differences for each one of them, but overall, like what does that onboarding implementation look like for a brand? Obviously, that's more important for a smaller brand who has less maybe less resources, internal resources to help them do that. But what does that look like?
So, any brand can go and do it all themselves with all the docs. Like it walks you step by step, like how to set up like each of these like key products. But we actually try to get on the phone with as many of our like customers as we can, both to get feedback and just to like walk you through like the 5 minutes of like how to set up a conversational pop-up, or like walk you through like how you brainstorm your quiz if you're going a little bit more advanced and you're trying to figure that piece out. I think again, it like kind of depends on size, but it doesn't take more than like I said, 5-10 minutes to like set up your first Octane AI like piece or conversational pop-up. A quiz will like take you a couple more minutes, because you probably want to think about like what questions you want to ask, but like it's WYSIWYG. Like you don't have to have any code experience to set up a shop quiz using Octane AI. You just like you drag and drop. We had a WYSIWYG interface, and then you just like embed the code on your store's website, and the quiz auto populates.
And so I love everything you're saying. I think it makes so much sense, and I think just the overall sort of, I don't know how to refer to it, the philosophy around this maybe might be a good word, in terms of capturing your using your tools to capture data specific, directly from the customer, instead of having to get third-party data or other. So I love this approach. But at the same time, you've got these 3 different products. If I'm a brand owner, whether I'm small or medium size or even larger, this might feel overwhelming a little bit. So is there a flow? Is there like a recommended, hey, maybe you start here and then add this and add this? And then if so, do they all work together? I'm just out of curiosity. Is there like I don't know, is there like I don't know what you'd call it, like the product start with this product, start with next, like some sort of flow or some sort of, way to go from that perspective.
The step one is always just collect any piece of data. Just collect data. That's like number one, because you can't do anything unless you're collecting this data. So step one is set up a conversational pop-up. It's super easy. It takes like 3 steps. It takes you like 5 minutes. You just like, the question you probably should ask is, what are you looking for? Or how can I help you? Like, and you probably know what those categories are. So you put that in, you pick the products for those categories, and then you ask for an email or phone number, and then it'll automatically do the rest and recommend products. And that's like number one, set up a conversational pop-up. And then, like step 2, like set up a quiz. And like it walks you step by step on how to go and do that. You just got to basically pick the questions, and, the thing inherits the fonts and the design of your website to make it super easy and make it look and feel like your website. I definitely recommend, if you're a store of like a certain size, let's say like you're making $1 million a year or $500,000 a year, just talk to someone on our team. They're like, we do this all the time with our customers to like help them get set up for like optimal success. And like, it's a pretty straightforward process. Like on our end, it will just like tell you like, here's the things you need to do. We'll help you go do a bunch of those things. We have a bunch of partners who know how to do these things. People pick it up really quickly, but you got to go and like, you have to do it sooner than later, because every day you're not collecting data and your competitors are, the farther behind you become. And it really doesn't take very long at all to do these things. And then you can set up whatever else you want to do, whatever personalization you want to do later, because as long as you've collected some of that data is yours. It's not somebody else's. You have that data forever. You can do what you need and want to do with that data, but you can't do anything if you don't have data. So those are the 2 things. Set up a conversational pop-up, set a quiz. That's it. Go do that. Go do that now.
I love that. Well, and it's interesting because I think a lot of smaller brands, I mean, all of them will, but I mean, in particular, I always look at the little guy. I always want to help the little person, the brand that's kind of beginning with big dreams and so forth. And that sounds perfect. I think that makes so much sense. Like, don't worry so much about like complicated strategies or whatever. Just start capturing the data. Just start capturing it. Don't worry about the complex strategies now, because that'll develop and that'll evolve and so forth, and you can get more intricate and so forth. But just capture the data, start there, and that sounds perfect. So, and this is great. Hey, I got to also ask, and thank you, by the way, for all this information about Octane, but I'm fascinated also by you. I'm just curious. You started off as a journalist. I know I'm kind of jumping around now, but I meant to ask this earlier, but I'm just fascinated. And I don't want time to run out before we were asked this question. As a journalist, to begin with, was it tough making that? I mean, you've covered tech companies and so forth, I'm sure, but was it tough joining or being part of a technology firm, given that you were a journalist? Like, was there any barriers, were any challenges? I don't know how technical you were beforehand, but was there any challenges to that? I'm just curious. Like, and I'm fascinated because I was talking to someone before. This is early morning. We're talking about someone who they knew was a liberal arts major and was into writing and so forth. And I don't know. I just found it interesting, them moving to different categories. I'm just curious about from you. Was there a barrier or challenge for you there?
It's an interesting question, because it is a different experience, because in media, and frankly, probably also in investing, you're talking to a large group of people across a lot of different things. And your main job is to talk and be seen, right? And like for your work to go and be seen and to just talk to a large number of people. And it's not like day-to-day management, startup is much more about like focus on like very individual things. And so the answer is yes and no. Like, I had some of that like knowledge and experience, but you also learn pretty quickly on the job, especially when you like, we've been very lucky. We've been able to hire some super amazing executives, like our VP of sales was one of the first 4 people at Klaviyo, and our VP of like finance and operations was like head of business operations at Credit Karma. And you just like incredible people that I learn from all the time. Matt and I learn from all the time, as well as from each other and from our co-founder, CTO Leaf. which thank God I don't have to like be super technical
Yeah.
like and build the product, because we have someone who would kill us if we tried to go and do that, because our code would not be up to like his standards. You learn, I mean, I think there's actually been like a lot of journalists who've been very successful with companies, especially recently. So like, I'll mention like Evelyn Roosley, who was a star journalist over at the Wall Street Journal, like co-founded Yumi, like a huge now baby food brand, and has been really successful at that. Or Kyle Russell, like with Playby, he built like a whole gaming platform, and that's been really like awesome to see its growth. Or Jessica Lesson, who founded The Information, which is like one of like a pivotal publication in like the ecom, like the tech and Silicon Valley industry, that like all the influential people read, and has become its own like self-sustaining, like decent sized business. And there's more of that kind of thing I think I've seen happen. So I think some of the skills definitely translate, the ability to like see opportunity, the ability to like, like you do need to talk to a lot of people to build a company, and like go and network and build relationships and things like that. So a lot of those things have translated, I think, better. And I'm really just happy to see more companies started by journalists being really successful, because there weren't that many examples in the past. There were more examples of journalists becoming VCs, and a lot of them are happening too and being
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's so funny how you said that, and just trying to back to Octane AI, it almost feels like from my own, like, I'm taking in what you're telling me right now. I'm digesting it just like the listener is right now. And something you just said a second ago, it kind of feels like that's what AI or Octane AI is all about. That's what that mission is. It's really about, like a journalist, like talking to all these people, gathering information, and then being able to take that information and then doing something with it, whether it's personalization, whether it's building better products, whether it's better customer service, whatever that is. It's like you have this tool that in some ways it's kind of like mirrors what you were doing, which is like talking to people, gathering information, creating a story, communicating based on that information, communicating a message after that. So I don't know, maybe I'm reaching, but it does sound kind of similar, that you have this tool that's essentially doing a lot of what you were doing before from a very human perspective.
Yeah, it's been, I was thinking a little bit, talk about like the AI piece, and I'm like, kind of like, there's some super cool stuff we're doing in the background at Octane too. And like, I can't talk about all of it, but like, there's some cool stuff where we're really going to be embracing the AI and Octane AI. And like, there's some personal milestones that I've like been able to like hit too. And now I'm going on a tangent a little bit, but like one thing that we got was like our first patent actually, and like some cool technology that we've done. It's actually my first patent. It's not Matt's first patent. It's my first patent. And like, those are like weird and interesting and amazing kinds of milestones. And I'm just thinking a lot about like how much the team has grown, and like the journey getting there. And like, there's like 60 something people in 14 countries. And somehow like we've been able to like turn, like go from zero to, like being a major company in the Shopify ecosystem, and being part of this like awesome ecosystem of just like that's super rapidly growing. So I don't know. I'm grateful, kind of going back to the beginning, to like have gotten to this point, to have worked with such amazing people in the ecosystem, right? There's just super, super smart, passionate people who are building like there's just like, I'm exposed to crazy, like amazing products. And they're just like, like one of our customers, Tracy Martin, for example, does like the facials for Rihanna, does the facials for like a bunch of other amazing products. They like gave me like the full like facial experience. And I was just like, this is awesome. This is just like, and this is awesome because like it's all across the board. Like everything, got to try everything from like amazing toothpaste to like cool alcoholic beverages to like super like crazy innovative stuff all around. Just like people are so creative in this world.
Yeah, no, believe me, I feel the same way, because I get introduced to a lot of products. My favorite non-alcoholic product right now is one called Aplos, and a little plug there for them. Aplos, they don't use alcohol; it's hemp infused, or something like that. So it still gives you like a feeling, like an elevated feeling a little bit, but it's non-alcoholic. So for me, it's like really interesting product, and I've tried it, so I really enjoy it. This is actually a great way to end this interview because, and I appreciate you sharing what you're grateful for and how you've built this company. I, I guess maybe just my last question, and I want to be respectful of your time. Um, is there any advice? I mean, you've built this amazing company. You've had this really great experience, as a journalist and so forth. Um, I'm wondering, is there any just general advice that you would either give another founder, an entrepreneur, in terms of your lessons learned? If you take a second and think about all the challenges you guys have faced and think of how you've gone through them, how did you make it through? And given that, is there anything that you would share to another founder that just say, hey, you know what? Watch these potholes in the road to your success, or just hang in there, like before you give up, just give yourself a pep. I don't know what you would say, but is there something you would say to a founder out there?
Like 80 things. You're only as strong as the team you have around you. And there's a lot of focus on a founder and again, frankly, without my co-founder CEO, we wouldn't be here, or co-founder CTO, we wouldn't be here. But also just we have an incredible team of amazing engineers, of account managers, salespeople, who have super smart, super knowledgeable, super I feel like we've been able to recruit them, and we've spent a lot of time focusing how to recruit just super smart, super nice, super self-driven people, especially for an all remote company and world. And that's always number one. And then it's also just really being nimble when it comes to finding, the things that work. And so if you don't die, you can eventually get to some kind of outcome. You've also got to constantly test and iterate. Don't settle for the status quo. You're just is this working? Is this not working? Keep on trying things, right? A lot of people get stuck in the early stages, trying to make something work that consumers don't want. And you just gotta launch the thing as quickly as possible and get feedback as quickly as possible, so that is there market demand? Is there not market demand? People spend I know people who spend 5 years developing products, and then they're surprised that nobody wants it, but because they never did the initial research to find out did people actually want it?
Mm-hmm.
Versus you take we try to get Oxygen out the first version in 6 months and be do people want this thing? Do people not? You should be embarrassed by the first versions of your product. It's okay, and you just want to get a thing out there and get testing and get iterating and learn from those things and learn what their demands are and talk to a lot of your customers or your potential customers. And I try to spend a lot of my time doing that, because that's where you can get disconnected. No matter the size of the company, the more customers you talk to, the more insights you gain, the more that it can help with everything else you do.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, I have one more, which is take a break. It's stressful, so take care of yourself. Take a vacation. Don't feel guilty. You need to go and have a workout. Go zonk out. Play your video game. Whatever the thing it is for you. Everyone burns out if they keep on, pushing a boulder uphill.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that. And I love what you said about you should be embarrassed by your first version. Because I think everyone tries to makes the first version perfect. And that's what takes them so long to get something out the door, because they feel like the first one has to be they have to knock it out of the park. Right. And that's rarely true. It's better, like you said, get it launched, then you develop. You should be embarrassed by the first one, because then it'll improve and so forth. So yeah, I love that.
I mean, look, even if for a physical product, where you do have to get a couple more things before you go and launch a thing, your branding's going to evolve after that first version. Do the things you can do even before whatever big launch you have to get feedback, get user testing. You're a food item, have taste tests, whatever you can do to just get constant customer feedback cycles will just make everything better. Feedback on your branding, feedback on your messaging, feedback on the product itself, whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that. Well, hey, I want to be respectful of your time, and I feel like we can continue this conversation on so many different topics. You're fascinating, and Ben, and I mean, I can pick your brain about just journalism alone because I find that fascinating too. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and I'd love to make sure that people know the website again, or any other place you want to send them. If there's someone they should contact, if they're interested, please let us know. Otherwise, man, this has just been amazing, and thank you for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll have you on again sometime in the future.
I really appreciate it. It's just at Octane AI on everything. OCTANEAI on social, on Twitter, the website. We actually just put out a quiz on the Octane AI website if you want to go and get the like potential value of what a quiz and what collecting zero party data is. Go take it. We're eating our own dog food on that front. And then I'm at Ben Parr, BENPARR, on literally every social network. And I will just say could be things every once in a while.
Thanks. I love that. Like I said, man, you're a fascinating person, and I'd love to pick your brain about other stuff at some time in the future. But thank you so much. I appreciate you being on. Everyone, we have just had Ben Parr, who is president and co-founder of Octane AI. You can find them at octaneai.com. We're going to have that link and all the other links that he mentioned on the podcast description, which you can find, of course, on thestoryofabrand.com. But you can also find it at your favorite directory, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us. Simply type in the Story of a Brand show. And our favorite places, of course, are Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify, but you can go anywhere you like. We'll have all of that information, as I mentioned. And if you have loved this conversation, as well as all the other founder conversations that we have, do me a favor, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. That helps me get more streams, more advertisers, etc. And then lastly, everyone, there's still a lot of craziness going on in this world. Hopefully things are getting better, but just be compassionate with each other, be good to each other, be forgiving, be patient. Everyone is going through a hard time, one way or another. Everyone is going through a hard time. So do me a favor, do what you can to stay safe, stay sane and healthy. And thank you most of all for listening to another episode of The Story of a Brand.